get Rotarians from all over the world to join us. And I approached my wife Carol and said, let's take some up to our fun place up in Morgan County. The club president joined us, and we had about 20 people that came from countries like Turkey and Australia and Great Britain and the country of Mississippi and all kinds of very interesting places. And we knew that night that we didn't have a lot of time. But I said, all right, everybody's got a story. Everybody gets a chance for the next 45 minutes to tell their story. And one I'd like to share with you before Ken tells his story is, and Ken's going to set the example for all of us, was a man named, still have it, Kosek, that's his last name, Krikor Kosek, from Istanbul, Turkey. Originally from Istanbul, and then moved to Palm Springs. He said when he was 18, he was conscripted in the Turkish army, and he was in his 70s in 2007. And he did what everybody was supposed to do. He was drafted, he needed to be a soldier. And before too long, he had an officer in the army walk up to him and say, "It's the honorable thing to tell you that at some point in time, I'm going to kill you. You're a Christian, I'm a Muslim, that doesn't work. I can't just do it. You need to know that it's coming, so now I've done you." And sorry about that. And he knew that he better do something different. And he told us how during the coming months he chose his time and opportunity and slipped out of the army, out of the country, ended up in the United States. And I guess the rest is history. He's a pretty wealthy man, in Palm Springs. Of course, the next one after him is a little bit missing. What do I say after that story? And that was kind of interesting as we went through. Well, that was interesting. Excuse me, Carol and I, when we had the dine around not too long ago at our house, of course, we were the same way. I said, "What is your story?" And we want you to know, every one of your tables are going to get to tell your story. So you might want to be thinking about it. You've got 3 minutes. We have a little bit, let you know when 3 minutes is up. We'll hear it very clearly. And so we will go around the table. Everybody takes 3 minutes and tells their story. Rotary, personal, a life lesson, whatever it might be, 3 minutes. And then at the end, every table has its captain, and we'll decide what to do next time. I hope that this will be a great experience. And for a lot of you members, we expect each of you guests to enjoy it and tell us your story as well. We'll be part of this today. And then at the end of the day, you'll know even more people in this great Ken. It's kind of fun. In this month's Rotary magazine, a man named David Bissay, and probably a lot of you are aware of him, started a business called Story Corp. He's now filed 55,000 personal stories in the archives of the U.S. And we'll put this back up on his return. He kind of gives some tips on how you might do it. We know a lot of Rotarians are going to need more than 3 minutes to tell their story. So you want to get 3 minutes.
Fellow Rotarians, this is something unique that Floyd has come up with. And first of all, I'd like to welcome Trevor and my son to Rotary today. I'm so proud of this organization and being a part of it. I'm not only proud to be a part of the volunteering part of it, but also proud to help and work together. Devin recently graduated from BYU Hawaii and is working with the Jazz in the sales office, and I'm so very grateful that he's chosen to come over and join us today. I'm going to put the plug out there for those that need Jazz tickets. We've got 2 great people here. It's time to support our Utah Jazz, their new coach and their new team. But I'm just grateful that he's graduated from college and moving forward. Grateful to have him in Salt Lake. Well, as you've seen, many of you today are going to get a chance to share a little bit of a story, something maybe that has affected your life. And sometimes we put on different coats. So today I wanted to put on a different coat, maybe a different hat for you today, because for the last 10 years of my life, I've had the privilege of flying a commercial aircraft for for Delta United. And I'd like to share just a quick video for you of how this day started, and then I'll share the story. This is me from the cockpit flying into JFK Airport a year ago today. As I landed that day, flying into JFK, we had about an hour layover. And we were heading home to our base, which was St. Louis. It was a beautiful day in New York, as you can see, and all was going well. We loaded up our, I think, a 70-passenger CRJ jet called the CRJ 700. We loaded all 65 of our passengers up, and we had a crew of 4. As we left that day, it was a happy and sad day for me because I was retiring from aviation that day. It was my last flight. And I'd always thought for the last 10 years, I kind of got into aviation later in life, and I always wondered, there's a purpose for me to be here. I don't know exactly why, but there's a purpose for me besides enjoying it and loving it. But it was hard to be away from the family and many other things. But at that particular time, I knew it was time that I returned back to Salt Lake. So this was my final flight. And as I showed you there, we just landed into New York today, and we were just getting ready for taxiing out, and all of our passengers were ready, and we just took off. Beautiful New York day. Flying over New York City and heading to St. Louis. That flight from New York to St. Louis is about 3 hours and 15 minutes. I had done it for the last year, probably over 100 plus times. Every time when I would take that flight, about an hour and a half into the flight, I would go to the back and use the restroom, just relax and stand up a little bit. As I got to the back of the plane on that particular evening, I was just entering into the restroom, and many of you are familiar with riding a roller coaster. When you reach the top of the roller coaster and come down, you become weightless. When you're in an aircraft, weightlessness is not a good thing. Because that means that something is going wrong. And I actually flew from my standing position, even though I'm quite tall, up into my head. So I immediately returned back to the cockpit. And once I got into the cockpit, I asked my first officer, which was a new first officer at the time, and I said, "What happened?" He said, "Kent, I don't know, but the autopilot just kicked off." And I was able to get the autopilot back on. And when you're at 41,000 feet, when the air is very thin, one of the things they ask you to do for best fuel in that altitude is they require us to have our autopilot engaged. And so many times there's one thing that usually disengages it, and I looked down there and there wasn't anything that indicated that. So as I sat down in my seat at that moment, and just put my seatbelt on, the autopilot started to turn the aircraft upside down. The aircraft, the air data computer that we had, believed that our aircraft was inverted. And one thing that you're taught as a pilot is that you believe everything the computer does. And so it was very difficult, but I could see out on the horizon that we weren't inverted, and I could see that there was something wrong. So as I disengaged the autopilot, we currently have 6 screens that actually we work off of in that cockpit, and 4 of them are dark. The only thing that was actually working at that particular time were our engine instruments, which stated that our engine was still running. And a 2-inch by 2-inch attitude indicated it was telling us we were running. So at that particular time, I declared an emergency, because when you're at that altitude, we're only separated by other aircraft. And one of the things I couldn't quite understand is that I couldn't turn off all the alarms. We have a way of, when we understand what our problem is, we understood that we had an air data computer problem, but one of the things I couldn't understand is why we couldn't As I looked over, we actually pressurized our aircraft to near that altitude of 80,000 feet. So we just wanted to be comfortable. But at that particular moment, the aircraft was reached what's called 10,000 feet inside the aircraft. We were losing pressurization in the aircraft, so it was actually building at 14,000 feet, all the oxygen was gone. So I took over the aircraft at that particular time, called air traffic control, and asked for immediate descent. At that particular time, the only thing I had was a 2-inch instrument and able to descend down and I was reading those figures in order to get the aircraft. We took it off the autopilot to get it from turning to south upside. We descended down to 18,000 feet. The closest airport to us at that particular time was St. Louis. And we were about a half an hour out from St. Louis. With our controls gone, we were actually just flying pretty much by that moment. But I will tell you, Rotarians, one of the things that I wasn't scared. I wasn't worried. It was a kind of a peaceful calmness, even though all the alarms and the many things that were going on at that particular time. Something said that I'd been trained and I was prepared for that particular moment. So as we came into St. Louis, we didn't realize it at this particular time in our route down to St. Louis that they'd been experiencing an ice storm. And when the Midwest experiences an ice storm, it doesn't just ice the ground, it ices the runways. And St. Louis has 6 runways, and only one had been halfway de-iced. We did not have any additional fuel. We didn't have the proper instruments in order to take it somewhere else. So we were going to. That evening, as we came around, our instruments were working on our plane, the de-ice instruments, so we were flying just fine. The engines were working great. We declared emergency on the ground because only half of the runway was de-iced, and we knew that we would need to stop short of what our normal stopping time was in order to be able to get in. They told us the ceiling was over 200 feet, about 450 feet. We can only go down to 200 feet and we don't see the runway. So I lined that up at that particular time. I told them our situation and what instruments we had. As we descended through the fog into that airport, and they rolled out their trucks in order for they didn't think we were going to be able to stop at the end of the runway. I just remembered at that particular time things were going to be hard. I didn't think. So I told my first officer and my crew to prepare that we were going into St. Louis and we were going to be landing. As we came into that airport, I had my first officer, I had to continue to remain on that 2-inch instrument in order to be able to land on the runway. As we came in on that final stretch, he called out 400 feet. He called out 300 feet. He didn't call out the runway in sight, that's what we call out. 250 feet, he called runway lights in sight. That allows me to go another 100 feet. He called out 100 feet runway in sight. At that particular time, I was able to look up and see the end of the runway. Knowing I did not have a full runway, I decided to put it on the runway. Fortunately, when we reached the ice part of the aircraft, with the thrust reversers and brakes that I had, we were slow enough that we were able to stop. As we taxied in that particular night when I parked that aircraft, I thanked my wonderful crew. And I walked outside that plane because it was my last flight. As I put my hand on that plane, I thank you for getting me on the ground. I also thank you for great training. And I truly believe that there was a heavenly guidance out there that helped me be calm. To get 65 people plus a crew of 4 on the inside. That changed my life to really rely on the training and the many things that we have. And as those people walked off the plane, I waved to them. I shook their hand. I don't think they really understood the situation we're in. I would hope that as Rotarians that we would be able to share our stories. And that's what Boyd and I were kind of talking about. Is that we can actually maybe you have a different coat that you wear in your opportunities. Or maybe it's that suit jacket that you have on right now. is that I think it's important that we, as a group, not only as we go out and volunteer, but as we meet on these wonderful Tuesdays, that we will share our stories about what we do. And I appreciate you guys listening.
Who's going to follow that? We'll start with our captains. We'll go to the right. We're going to take 2:45, so 3 minutes. Go. You'll know when 2:45 is up. Has everybody gone around the table? Everybody's finished? We'll ask Randy here to come up. Now what we're going to do is, we're only going to do 2 for 2 minutes. Everybody can be patient. If you need to go, go. But if you've just got 4 more minutes, Randy, jump right up here. Brian, who's from your table? Are you up? Mark, who's from your table? David, come on, come up. Shaw, who's from your table? Send Alicia up. Come on, Alicia. So we got 3. Clock is on. 2 minutes each.
My wife and I are in Zambia here a couple of years ago, and I want to go and see Victoria Falls. Those of you who've been there know that Victoria Falls, there's so much water that comes off of it that 100 miles around you can see the mist. So I decided I really want to see it, so I rent this thing. It's like a lawnmower. You sit on it, and there's one thing that goes up like that little thing goes around. The next thing I know, I'm 100 feet up in the air. I only have a seatbelt on me, and I'm looking down, and I'm scared to death. We go right through the mist, come back the other side, and come back down, and we're going over this little lake. And in this lake, there are these logs. And I talked to the guy who's piloting this thing. He said, "What the heck are those?" He said, "Oh, those are just crocodiles." I said, "Oh, that's good to know." And then I said, "What are those great logs in the middle of the water?" He says, "Oh, those are our hippopotamuses." And I'm thinking, let's make sure we don't land there. He said, "We'll do my best." So he goes over and he lands. We get out of the plane, and there's a zebra just right over there, and I think, looks like a horse. I go walking over and I say to my wife, "You take a picture of me while I'm up there near that zebra." That zebra turned around so fast, kicked me right here in the ribs twice, and I had a mark, a zebra mark on my side for about a year. I'm lucky he didn't hit a rib or the rest of me. I'm in real trouble. He kicked me, and you remember the little story about Brer Fox and Brer Rabbit said, "Don't throw me there, don't throw me there in the briar patch." Well, this dadgum zebra kicked me in the briar patch. I spent 3 hours in the hospital having thorns removed.
I'm going to change my story. I shared with the table. My name is David Utrilla. I'm the honorary consul of Peru for the state of Utah. I was appointed by the president of Peru 6 years ago to this position. So I didn't know much about the relations between Peru and Utah at the time. So the first thing I did was to check what relations we have with Utah. So I found that there were many people, many groups that were doing humanitarian work in Peru. So I decided to gather all of them at my office, and we have these big conference rooms, full of a lot of people. And the first thing I did was to tell them, if any of you here in the room are doing work in Peru, and the work that you're doing doesn't provide self-reliance, and the program is not sustainable, we don't need you. Thank you so much for everything you have done, but perhaps you can go somewhere else. So the meeting basically concluded that way, and some people came to me and said, we do wonderful things in the country. Yes, they are not providing self-reliance, but it's looking very important. I said, perhaps go to Africa or maybe other places. We need self-reliance. That's what we need. So some of the people remained there and said, we believe in this and we're going to do that. So I told them, okay, next thing that we're going to do is for you important is we are going to continue only if the government will match what you're doing. I said, no, we are very independent. We don't need anybody to help us. I said, well, if we are that way, then Peru is not for you either. So the group, I say, okay, we're going to change some things. So at the end, there was this smaller group, and I told them, okay, you guys are a smaller group. Let's go to Peru and let's talk with the boat. So we went and traveled to Peru with the group and met with all of the regional presidents, which are the ones that have the autonomy with the money. Cooperate. So I told the same group, and I told us, I said, these people are willing to invest and to help the people of Peru, but they will only do it if you match the contribution. And if you are not going to match the contribution, they're not going to work with you. So I remember they look at me and they say, so what team are you? Are you on our team or their team? I said, no, I'm the team of that group, but it's the right team to make something that is sustainable. So many of them actually got on board. In fact, some of them say, I don't need money. I will fund everything. So this is a model we have been following for the last 5 years, and it has been very successful. We have helped many families, and more important, the people in the government of Peru to realize that they're in charge, and also the people in Utah to know that they're really helping people, not just for today, but for many generations to come. Thank you.
So I'm Alicia Bremer, and I have a public relations firm working communications called Bremer Public Relations. It's 25 years old, and I sort of had a moral story. I think I won the 4-way test honor at our table. But we were in a situation about 10 years ago where we were very well known for our crisis communications work. And we had a client whose products was manufacturing client, was really having some trouble. People have been injured with this particular product they manufactured, and they called us and said, we need to meet with you, we'd like to hire you, we'd like to have you help us through this. And one of our firm's absolute mandates was best practices, ethical truth. And they took an hour to tell us. There were 3 of us and about 12 of them, the C-suite and the senior executives of this organization. And they said, here's the story, they went through all the details, how the manufacturing had gone wrong and what was injuring people. And we're just furiously taking notes, trying to capture it all. And my mind is racing, how we're going to get this story out, how we're going to present this, how we're going to help the people who've been injured. And then he stops and says, so that's the story. Here's what we're going to tell the public. And I said, so we're not going to tell them what happened? And he went on and talked then about what the story was going to be. And I said, we can't do that. We absolutely can't do that. That's a lie. We won't lie on your behalf. And he said, well, you signed a confidentiality agreement. And I said, we won't tell anybody what you just told us, but we are not going to go out to the public. Because it was a big national company. There were people injured all over the country. Anyway, so the moral of the story was, we said, we can't do that. Can you please tell you how we could tell them? My mind is racing because I'm thinking on my feet. And gave them some good possible, different ways of telling the story that's truthful and not a lie. And they said, just get out of here, get out of here. And they literally kicked us out. And that was a life-changing moment for me because it was a very large account. It would have kept us busy for a year, and I had a 10-person firm. And it was just actually a wonderful opportunity for us to help them. And instead they said no, because we were going to help them in an ethical way. They didn't want ethics. So that was my story.
Thanks to Alicia for planning cleanup for us. And 2 important things. We have Operation Underground Freedom next week at Marriott. Number 2, Devin is he is just running a wonderful blog. If you haven't seen it, every one of you need to send him 1 paragraph. Concise your story down to 1 paragraph. Send it to Devin, and today's intro will be everybody's story. What do you think? We're adjourned.
I'd like you to take it back.
Thanks. Nice to meet you. Nice to go back to the office. Gone.
Great, I'll tell Claire I saw you.
I went over to Europe and played in red. I saw it when I grew up. So it was just like one step away